Hello and welcome to Heavy Metal Rex. My name is Wace and today I'm bringing you a car that really felt underneath the radar for me. Even though I've known about it for a few years, I actually did have a Jetta S, a 2019 Jetta, and when I went to go get it, I did see this car, but for whatever reason, over the last few years, I've kind of completely forgotten about it. And I know you saw the thumbnail and you're probably wondering, well, another WRX competitor, it's hard to say if this is actually going to be a WRX competitor, and the car that I'm referring to is this 2022 Volkswagen Arteon. It's a SEL R line. Now, the question I'm hoping to answer in this video is this car actually a WRX competitor? Hopefully, we'll go through some of its features and we'll find out. So on paper, what we've got here is another sedan that's turbocharged and in some trims comes with all-wheel drive. Now the base model is front-wheel drive only, but the SEL and the SEL Premium, which is the middle pack and the highest trim, do come with Volkswagen's 4Motion, which is supposedly an always-on system. Now I have not experienced any other all-wheel drive car from Volkswagen besides the Golf R. And the one that I drove was a couple of years old. I think it was a 2013 or 2012. So it's been a minute. There's a lot to like about this car. It's a pretty good looking car, I think. It definitely has some stylings that are similar or somewhere between the Jetta and the Passat. The engine is 300 horsepower and I think 295 pound-foot of torque. It is an all-wheel drive 2-liter turbo, which again, which is why it puts it into that very interesting category. Now, from the outset, you're probably wondering, okay, if you've seen this car, you've seen the price tag on it. It's not particularly inexpensive, to say the least, which I think it tends to put it into a very weird spot, because for the same price, you can just get a Golf R, but you know, why would you get a sedan? You know, maybe you need a little bit more room than what the Golf R provides, and it's hard to say who this car is specifically marketed for. This particular model does come with 20-inch wheels. There are no fancy brakes associated with it that I can tell. Currently, I don't know if this is from the factory, but it is running Continental S tires all season, not summer, so you can kind of see who this is particularly aimed for. Now, you're probably wondering, it's got all that cool power, it's turbocharged, but do you get a manual? The answer is sadly no. In this case, you only have a 7-speed DSG, which is still pretty good. Something that we do wish that the WRX did come with. Unfortunately, we did end up with the CVT. Interior-wise, it's a very nice feeling car. You definitely have this leather-wrapped steering wheel. You have a 10-inch user configurable dash where you can put all kinds of different things. Of course, the 7-speed dual clutch, but what's really interesting is this dash it's a combination of both new and old sensibilities. Obviously, you have touchscreen up here, and it's surprisingly very responsive, especially when I'm comparing it to my WRX. But at the same time, you do have very interesting touch capacitive buttons down here, which is a little unusual for really any car. I mean, it's really going to depend on if it's something that you care about, but you know, I think it's kind of cool. I'm not really sure. Touch controls is something that's it's incredibly subjective, depending on who you are and what you prefer to have in your car. One big benefit is this does come with Android Auto, which is very nice. Of course, the SE line does have navigation as well, but we do have Android Auto. As you can see, it is wireless, which we don't have that on the WRX, so that's kind of cool. Speaking of the DST, you do have a couple of options here. You can, just like most automatic cars or DSG cars, you have a couple of modes that you can switch to. You've got Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport. This is my brother-in-law's car. I'm very confident he keeps it on Sport all of the time. So this is the rear seats. One thing that I noticed that's very nice is you do get the dual vents back here for air conditioning. Obviously, if you have a child or other passengers, they're not dying in the heat. These days, it's pretty bad. I'm sitting back here, and I've got a fairly good amount of room here. As you can see, tons of space for my knee, and I was sitting up front, and so it's very comfortable for me to sit up front as well. So now this is the part that's really cool. I didn't know this about the Arteon. You can see even from here that this is a type of hatch, or I think they call them sports back, not completely a hatchback, but a sports back. And so if I come over here and just push this like that, there goes the trunk. Very cool indeed. I do know that if they made this in the WRX, I would be all over it. And of course, if a hatch would be the best option, but as you can see, plenty of cargo room back here, a lot of space, and you don't have to worry about weird trunk angles, which is, it's a kind of a complaint that I've had on my WRX, where the trunk entrance is just weirdly shaped, but here you have just so much space, so much access to just shove whatever you want in there. Of course, my brother-in-law, they do have 2 kids, so we've got the stroller back here. Of course, all that stuff is a lot of fun, and it's cool. All these little features, all cars vary in what they provide. And of course, this is a much more of a luxury option. So directly comparing it to a WRX, which usually comes in at $30,000, and this, I believe, the way it's equipped is somewhere in the high 40s, like 46, 48, which is, that's quite an expensive car. But at the end of the day, these creature comforts, they're subjective. Some people care about them, some don't. But what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to get some exhaust notes to see exactly what the car sounds like stock, and we'll take it out and drive it and see exactly how it feels. I'm really excited to feel that DSG, specifically because this car does weigh somewhere north of 3,900 pounds. I think 3,950 or 3,890, somewhere up there. So it's quite a heavy car. It does still have more horsepower than a WRX, and it is mated with the DSG, so that should make for some very quick shifting. I do know that Car and Driver and a couple of others have done their testing and shown that this, with launch control, I do believe launch control is built into this, they can get a 5.1 0 to 60, which is quite fast, and a 13, mid to low 13s in a quarter mile, which again, that's a very quick car. For something this heavy, it is surprising. So let me get a couple of these clips and we'll go for a drive. As I was doing the startup, I did notice something very interesting. It wasn't a very loud car, and at the same time, this does actually tell me when I do throttle blips to like not do it, which is really interesting. Another thing I wanted to show you is some ways that you can kind of change the view on here. I haven't played with this too much, but it's kind of cool that it does have the navigation right there in the middle. I mean, if you just want big old navigation there, you do have the access to your speedometer and your tach. It's just crazy to have just a giant tablet in the middle. Another thing I wanted to point out, you don't get an actual handbrake. You do have electronic handbrake. Starting to become very common for some of these more luxury vehicles that are, I don't know if this is actually positioned as a sports sedan. So can't really take that many points off it. It's kind of to be expected. So what's really interesting about this car is it is so quiet and it is so relaxing. It is, currently I do have it in sport mode. There's a lot of safety features in this as well. And I think most of them come standard. I'll have to go back and see exactly which ones are standard, which ones aren't. Of course, you have the blind lane assist, you have rear traffic warning, you have emergency automatic front braking. Most of the things that you expect in a modern luxury vehicle. It does have adaptive cruise control, which is very, very cool. It does have the lane keep assist as well. All that stuff is being shown to me on the front. Pretty much everything that I expect a car of this price point to have safety-wise. As I'm driving this car, and what I noticed when I went back and listened to the exhaust clip, it is quiet. It is a very quiet car. They are not trying to get the people, at least to my eyes, they're not trying to get the people that are like the Golf R owners or like the other WRX owners or like sports-minded people. Obviously, it has the Golf R engine in it. It's not tuned to the same power as the Golf R. I think the Golf R is over 300. This is right at 300. And like I said, it's a very heavy car. And even as I'm driving it, the suspension is in sport mode and it feels weighty. It does feel weighty. It's a direct feeling car. It does feel really good. And as I'm driving through this road back here, it's quite twisty. I'm going about 50 and it's so smooth, even with everything set to sport, that I don't feel that that I'm driving something that is turbocharged or meant to be somewhat fun. I think this is a very compliant vehicle. There's nothing crazy about this car. I guess once I get up here on some straightaways, I'm gonna give it a little bit full throttle and kind of see how it feels. But just turning through these corners, it's calm, one could say. Here, there's a little straightaway coming, so let's see. Let's give it a little bit and see what happens. Man, I forget. It's been a while since I've driven a car with a DSG, a dual clutch in it, and it's such a different experience. It's such a different feel to even driving an automatic per se. The gear shifts are just so smooth, and sometimes I can't even feel them. Now, I'm gonna have to do this again where I'm at a stop still, because that was more of kind of like a rolling off at 1 or 2 miles per hour and just flooring it. It didn't feel fast, right? And I want to say that it didn't feel like I was going very fast, but I was up to 55 or 56 very quickly. And I think this is one of those cars that, as you're driving it, you can catch yourself going faster than you intended to go. And a lot of the newer cars are like that because of how smooth they are. This one as well, it's the same issue. All right, so I figured out the launch control, and I'm gonna try it here. It's a completely empty road for now. So basically, you turn off the ESC, your left foot on the brake, there it goes. That's pretty damn quick. That was up to 60. I don't have any way to measure this right now exactly how fast it is, but basically what it's doing is it's holding the revs at 4,000 and it just launches the car right out. Now, first gear is a little bit aggressive, obviously, because of the way that it's trying to shift to the next gear, but it is very smooth and very quick. That actually does feel pretty good from a launch. I know from a roll, it's like kind of okay, but from a launch, that feels pretty good. I wonder how much faster this could go with a tune. I know there's a couple of people, I think there's only one shop that's running a tune with this car, but that was pretty damn quick. I kind of wish that we had launch control on the WRX. It still does feel, you can feel that this is a heavy car. It is not a sports car per se. But if you get this tuned, I think there is a lot of potential. We all know exactly how Volkswagens and Audis perform when they are tuned, and I have the utmost confidence that the exact same experience would happen with this car, because it is, the power is there. The DSG is there. It's set up to do good things. I think it just needs a little bit help in the tuning department to get there. So I'm back from my drive, and I gotta say, it was quite fun. I definitely wasn't sure exactly what to expect because I've never driven this car before, and it's been a while since I've driven a Volkswagen that's had all-wheel drive to begin with. And overall, it felt very good. It's a very good car. It's well built. It feels good. And I don't want you guys to think that this channel is not going to start doing just like all car reviews. You know, there's plenty of other better channels that are out there that are doing this. For me, this is more of a comparison against a WRX specifically. And the question I set out to answer for myself was, here's another car that's four-wheel drive, 4 doors, turbocharged, 4-cylinder. How does that compare to a WRX? Now, it may not be the most fair comparison, just because this car, I don't know if this is something that people would cross-shop. I think this starts somewhere in the low 40s, and like I said, this particular model is somewhere about 48,000, which that's 18,000 more than you would spend on a base WRX, and you get pretty much most of the features, minus obviously creature comforts. Like, you're not going to get 20-inch wheels, you're not going to get a panoramic sunroof, you're not going to get this fancy, you know, display, or the DSG for that matter. You know, you just get an all-wheel drive car with manual, and you know, it's fun. So I really don't know if this is a true competitor. This comes back to how people used to always try to lump the new WRX into this $36,000 to $45,000 category, which I don't believe that it belongs there. At the end of the day, there's still really nothing at the price point like a WRX. Of course, unless you need unless you don't need all-wheel drive, then I think you have more options. But when it comes to all-wheel drive, 6-speed manual, turbocharged, you're not really getting anything else. And I'd love for there to be more options. I think that would at least help Subaru have some competition and build something. But overall, at the end of the day, I think the answer is the Volkswagen Arteon a true competitor for the WRX? Probably not. Is it a fun car? Yes, it is. Should you buy one for $48,000? That's kind of up to you. That's not something that I can tell you. If you've got $48,000, really any of these cars are options for you, right? But if you don't, then you really only have a few options. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.